Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can also check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can also listen and download on SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, and watch the interview on YouTube as well. We're here at Kansas City-based Jeff Vaughn, comedian and Mr. Road Warrior himself after a long career in sales and marketing for Colgate-Palmolive. And following his dad's footsteps as a comedian, he appeared in several films with Tom Berenger and Tatum O'Neal and more. And, of course, we're going to get to your dad's, being a stand-up comedy and everything else. And just want to ask as well, too, what was the moment that your dad got into comedy, and who did he work with, and whereabouts did he travel at?
And inhale. Well, my dad, he wasn't in comedy full-time because he worked radio TV business, as I mentioned to you. But, back in the 60s, there weren't comedy clubs like there are now. So what he would work would be more like a variety show. There may be a singer, there may be, whatever on the show, and then they would also have a comedian on there. And so that's what he did, and would work, maybe nightclubs or country clubs or, whoever was putting the show on. That's the kind of shows that he would get involved in, because that's all you had to get involved in back then. I mean, the fact that you got comedy clubs now helps a lot, but comedy clubs, to go back to my story about how lucky I was to get in, that's the hardest part to get into. There's a lot of guys out there that have worked for years that can't hardly get going in comedy clubs, so they end up doing a lot of, one-nighters and bar shows and that sort of thing. And I totally missed having to do that as well. So, and my dad didn't have that luxury to even try to get into, because since comedy clubs didn't exist then.
And also too, you mentioned about the headliners that come up to you and saying how long have you been doing this. So who are some of the headliners that you headline for, and who'd you work with?
Yeah, I've worked, and that's always kills me too, because I would meet him and I think, I can't believe I'm standing here talking to this guy. I've done a lot of shows with Jimmy J.J. Walker. Who I'm sure you know who that is.
Dynamite!
Yeah, Dynamite. And I probably have done, in several different cities, but I've probably done 30 shows with him. And I would always think, man, when I was a young person watching that on TV, if somebody would have told me, he's going to be a friend of yours and you're going to do shows with him, I would have said, you are out of your mind. And so, but that happens. And I work with Colin Quinn from Saturday Night Live. John Reap, who won NBC's Last Comic Standing.
Nice. Okay.
He won that. And Michael Winslow, you ever watch the Police Academy movies?
I do remember Police Academy. I watched the first and second, maybe bits of third, fourth, and fifth. Now that you mention it, I'm going to rent all of those on a weekend and watch them as well. And thanks for getting me back in.
Michael Winslow is the guy that does all the sound effects.
Oh, yes, that was him. Okay, there's like so many. I'm trying to figure out who's who and to bleep like that. Yes.
So him and a lot of comedians that are just famous for being comedians, like say a John Reap. But those are some of the ones that would be household names that are like, and Doug Stanhope. And, the amazing thing is, I don't know if you knew who Doug Stanhope is or not, but, he was a host on TV of The Man Show and several things, but he's also a famous stand-up comedian. But some of these guys, like Stanhope, for example, he's crazy on stage and drinks a lot, and his drinks are stacked up on the stool on stage, and people are up yelling, and he's yelling. I mean, he's just full of energy. But you meet some of these guys off stage, they're very reserved, and it's amazing that the personality, I would say most comedians aren't that outgoing. And you see a lot of them on stage like that, and you think, man, that guy's crazy. He just must be going all the time. But really, they're all fairly reserved, and their comedy face comes out when they're on stage, but they're not necessarily like that when they're off stage.
It sounds like a lot of them that we know as well, too. Like, say, with Robin Williams, he's known to be very shy off stage, but very, very, just
crazy
outgoing.
On stage.
Yes, that's right. And I'm also trying to think of a few as well, too.
Well, that's a good example. But many, I would say, and I've worked with hundreds of them over the years, and and most of them were fairly quiet and reserved. As a matter of fact, the owner of the club that I started in that had helped me so much, he told me one time, I'm a big golfer, so he used a golf analogy. He said, if you played golf with 4 comedians, he goes, I guarantee you that the quietest one is the funniest one on stage. So there's
no kidding.
That,
I have to remember that.
Yeah. So, and I'm fairly quiet, and I know a lot of people that I probably meet that just meet me for the first time and know what I do, and I'm fairly quiet especially until I get to know people. They're probably thinking the same thing, like, this guy's a comedian? That doesn't make sense.
I can imagine this foursome being on the golf course. The quiet one being the funny. They'll be like, "Don't miss this putt. Don't miss this putt. Hey, look at that bird!" in fact, I did talk to some people who are on the golf circuit as well too. And of course, it's just a mesh of personalities. How they all came together, and they all talked about their ideal foursome for a golf tournament and everything else. And since we're on the subject of golf, if you were to go golfing, what ideal foursome would you be on?
Oh, anybody in the world?
It can be anybody. It can be your favorites, or just pick a name or something. It's like it can be celebrity, non-celebrity. It could be like even the president or something, or corporation. Just like use your imagination. It can be quick.
Yeah, I'd probably pick some comedians. I've played golf with a lot of comedians, and they're fun to play with. But when they play golf, they're playing golf. But still, they're quick-witted and enjoyable to play with, funny. And I tell you who one of the funniest people I've heard that's one of the funniest on the golf course is Bob Newhart. So I'd like to play with him, although I don't know if he plays golf anymore, but in his day he was a big golfer, and I've heard he's absolutely hilarious to play with. So he'd be one I'd choose.
Mm-hmm. And also Bob Hope is a well-known golfer as well too. It has a Bob Hope golf tournament, and I think there's also a few others too. And also I was on with Richard Karn as well too, a huge avid golfer, and actually golfed with Bob Newhart and Bob Hope and a few others as well too. So I think for those who are wanting to get back in the golf game, it's like just pull out the clubs and just go play. That's what I encourage you guys to do as well too. So.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, I play almost every day. I probably shouldn't admit that, but I do, because when I'm working, you work at night, so it doesn't get in the way of golf. And when I travel and would travel to other clubs, I'd find out who I was working with, and I'd contact those comedians and say, look, if you play golf, bring your clubs. And so I play golf on the road a lot with other comedians.
Mm-hmm. And also too, what are some of your favorite courses that you played on, and what are some of your favorite cities for golfing?
Oh God. Well, I've played some famous courses. I've played, and those, are always fun to play, like Torrey Pines out in Southern California. That's on the PGA Tour. And the Big Blue Monster there in Miami. I'm trying to think of the name of the club now. I think Trump owns it now, but I'm trying to think what the name of it used to be. But it's also a famous on the PGA Tour. So whenever I get to play one that you get to see on TV, I always enjoy that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that sounds amazing as well too. And of course, we'll talk more about golf as well too, and also some of your films as well too. Maybe filming about golf, or maybe a golf movie comedy or something. So maybe that can be in the works. What do you think about that?
Well, I've had some approach me about doing shows at country clubs, because the golfers would be interested in that. But I just don't. You would think I'd have a lot of golf material, but I don't. And material, that is the hardest thing to come up with in this business. People probably think standing on stage in front of 300 drunk strangers is the hard part, but that's the easy part. The hard part is writing fresh, new material to make 300 drunk strangers laugh. That's the hardest part.
And of course, the one joke I could think of is like, you got to think before you get up on stage or shoot or something. So yeah. So, but yes.
Anyway, so clubs like that would be good. But people tend to think, since I play golf so much, I would have a lot of golf jokes, but I really don't.
Well, that can be in the works too. But you never know. Adam Sandler, a golfing fanatic, could probably knock on a door with Happy Gilmore. So we'll talk more about your films as well too. You're listening. You're listening to the Mike Wagner Show at the MikeWagnerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable, custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@SonicWebStudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show is brought to you by Evan Fine of the Senior Reserve Group. When you start thinking about retirement, who you can call about Medicare? Why call the best? Evan Fine of Senior Reserve Group specializes in Medicare, health, and long-term care insurance. Evan can be reached at 1-800-650-9357. That's 1-800-650-9357. Or email to evanfine@seniorreservegroup.com. Evan is licensed in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, Delaware, South Carolina, and Florida. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can also listen and download on SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio, and watch the interview on YouTube as well. We're here at Kansas City-based comedian Jeff Vaughn, who's been on the road after a long career in sales and marketing. He's on the comedy circuit. He's following his dad's footsteps in radio, TV, and comedy. Also appeared in some films, too, with Tom Berenger and Tatum O'Neal and more. He appeared in Last Will and Liberty Crossing. And first of all, just tell us about a couple of movies you've been in.
Well, and the way I got in that business is just about as strange as how I got into the comedy business, because, there's literally thousands of people, tens of thousands of people on the West Coast and New York wanting to get into the film business. And shortly after I got into comedy, a friend of mine sent a video clip of me on stage doing comedy to a mutual friend of his that has been out in Hollywood for 30 plus years and acting, directing, writing, that sort of thing. And he sent him a clip of me, and I heard back from that guy, and he said, "Hey, our friend Glenn sent me this clip. I didn't know you were doing comedy. I really enjoyed that, and good luck, blah blah blah." And I sent him a note back. I'd never acted in my life, and didn't even take drama in high school or anything. I sent him a note back and said, "Thanks. It's great to hear from you. But I'd be interested in working in your business. And if you ever have anything that you think I might fit in for, I'm willing to travel. I don't care where it's at. I'd be interested in doing it. But I'm not interested in just being an extra. I want to," and this is the stupid part, I want speaking parts. Beggars can't be choosers, right? But here I am, no experience, nothing, and I'm asking a Hollywood guy to put me in a movie, and I want speaking lines, et cetera, et cetera. And so off goes that email, and that's the end of it, and I think nothing else about it. 6 months later, I get a phone call, and it's him, and he says, "I think I've got a part for you."
Nice.
And that ended up being that part in Last Will. His name's Brent Huff. He was the director of the movie, and that starred Tatum O'Neal and Tom Berenger. James Brolin was in it, Patrick Muldoon, and had a lot of familiar faces in the movie. And I did that, and Tatum O'Neal was in my scene, Berenger was in my scene, Muldoon was in my scene. And so that was an interesting experience, and that was, so my first comedy experience was in a comedy club, which is unheard of, and my first acting experience was actually in a major motion picture, which is
unheard of,
even more unheard of. So again, both by just being stupid enough to say, "I want to do this," and people let me do it. But that was a cool experience, because you finally see, well, that's how they do that, and that's how they splice all this stuff together. It may take 5 hours to reshoot and shoot, 1 5-minute scene, and it just amazes me the process that went into this to make a movie. It was so, not only was it fun being in it, and again, I'm sitting there going, well, I'm sitting next to Tatum O'Neal, whoever. When I watched Paper Moon, I never thought this was going to happen. So that was cool. And to see how it was done, in addition to just the excitement of being in it, was a lot of fun. And then after I did that, of course, then all at once you got experience, just like you did in comedy. And people were like, well, you should get an agent and do this. And so I did. And so I've been in a few things, mainly smaller independent type stuff. I started big and I'm working my way downhill, I guess, but it's hard to get